The coffee shop went dead silent when the biker's fist smashed the table, spilling scalding coffee across the old man's book. "Get out of my seat, cripple," he growled, his shadow swallowing the one-armed veteran who didn't even flinch. A wave of fear paralyzed the room. But in the corner, a young woman in a hoodie looked up, her gaze laser-sharp. The bikers saw nobody. They had no idea they just threatened a tomb guard, and their mistake would be corrected in 60 seconds. Before I show you exactly what happened next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. The morning sun was casting a golden glow through the wide windows of the Daily Grind. The Daily Grind was the soul of this small Virginia town, just a stone's throw from a national cemetery that held generations of heroes. It was a sanctuary of calm on a Sunday morning. The rich, earthy aroma of freshly ground coffee beans mingled with the sweet scent of cinnamon from warm pastries displayed under a glass counter. The gentle hiss and gurgle of the espresso machine provided a soothing soundtrack, punctuated by the soft clinking of ceramic mugs and the low murmur of conversations. The walls were a testament to local history, adorned with faded black and white photographs of the town through the decades. One entire section, known as the Honor Wall, featured pictures of local men and women in uniform, from the grainy portraits of World War II soldiers to crisp digital photos of recent veterans. In his usual booth by the window sat Arthur "Pops" Vance. At 72, Arthur was as much a fixture of the Daily Grind as the espresso machine. His silver hair was neatly combed, and his plaid flannel shirt was buttoned to the collar. A small, gleaming Marine Corps pin was fastened to his worn denim jacket. His left sleeve was neatly pinned just below the elbow, a silent, dignified testament to a grenade blast in a faraway jungle in 1969. He was absorbed in a thick book about the Battle of Chosin Reservoir, his brow furrowed in concentration. His posture was relaxed but alert, a remnant of a lifetime of discipline that never truly faded. Across the room, almost invisible in a corner nook, sat Chloe Mitchell. At 30, she was on a rare day off. She had traded her immaculate dress blues for a gray hoodie, black leggings, and worn-out sneakers. Her light brown hair was pulled back into a messy bun, and she wore no makeup. To any casual observer, she was just another young woman trying to catch up on life, her laptop open to a half-written email. But Chloe was anything but ordinary. Her eyes, a startlingly clear blue, scanned the room with an almost unconscious vigilance, noting the exits, the positions of the customers, the rhythm of the space. It was the result of years of intense training as a sentinel of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. She was a tomb guard, one of the few who had earned the honor of watching over the tomb of the unknown soldier. The discipline required for that duty was etched into her very being. She had met Arthur at a local Veterans Day event. His stories, told without a hint of bravado, had moved her deeply. They shared a quiet nod when she entered, an unspoken acknowledgement of shared service. Lena, the cafe's warm-hearted owner, refilled Arthur's cup. "More fuel for the historian, Pops?" she asked with a smile. He looked up, his weathered face breaking into a gentle grin. "History keeps us honest, Lena. Reminds us what we fought for." Just as Chloe was about to turn back to her screen, the peaceful morning was shattered. The deafening roar of multiple motorcycle engines grew from a distant rumble to a ground-shaking thunder right outside. The door swung open with a violent bang, and 5 large men strode in, their heavy boots thudding against the polished hardwood floor. They were the Road Vultures MC, a gang known for intimidation. Their leader, a mountain of a man with a shaved head and a tattoo of a snarling vulture on his neck, scanned the room with a predator's arrogance. His name was Spike. His gaze swept past the intimidated students and the nervous couple, landing on the best seat in the house, Arthur's sun-drenched window booth. The gentle hum of the coffee shop died, replaced by a tense, suffocating silence. The storm had arrived. Spike swaggered towards Arthur's table, his leather jacket creaking with every step. The other 4 members of the Road Vultures fanned out behind him, forming an intimidating wall. The air grew thick with a mixture of cheap cologne and menace. Spike slammed his hand down on the table, making Arthur's coffee cup jump in its saucer. "Hey, old-timer." His voice was a low growl that carried across the silent room. "You're my spot. Move it." Arthur looked up slowly from his book, his eyes calm and unwavering. He deliberately placed his bookmark between the pages before closing the volume. "Son, I've been sitting in this booth every Sunday morning for the last 15 years, he said, his voice steady, without a trace of fear. "There are plenty of other tables. I suggest you find one." Spike's sneer tightened. He leaned in closer, his foul breath washing over Arthur. "What's that? You deaf or just stupid, old man?" he said, raising his voice to ensure everyone could hear. "I said this is my table now, so get your crippled ass up before I drag you out of here myself." The word cripple hung in the air like a poison. Lena, the owner, took a step forward, her hands trembling. "Spike, that's enough. Leave him be." He shot her a venomous glare. "Stay behind your counter, Lena, unless you want your windows broken." Again, Lena froze, her face pale with fear and helplessness. The other customers stared down at their plates, suddenly fascinated by their muffins and lattes. Arthur's gaze didn't waver. He took a slow, deliberate sip of his coffee. "I'm not looking for trouble," he said, his voice low but firm. "But I'm not moving. I earned my place in this world a long, long time ago." Spike let out a harsh, barking laugh. "Earn it? By losing a limb for some pointless war." He leaned over, his shadow completely engulfing the old soldier. Then, in an act of pure contempt, he snatched the small Marine Corps pin from Arthur's jacket. He held it up for a moment, then flicked it dismissively. The tiny metal emblem skittered across the floor, coming to a stop near the counter with a faint, metallic click. As if that wasn't enough, he picked up Arthur's coffee cup and contemptuously poured its contents over the old man's book. The dark liquid soaked the pages, dripping onto the floor in a dark, spreading stain. Across the room, Chloe watched every second, her body rigid. Each insult, each act of disrespect was a physical blow. The tomb guard's creed echoed in her mind. "My dedication to this sacred duty is total and wholehearted. In the responsibility bestowed on me, never will I falter." This wasn't a tomb, but it was a desecration of honor all the same. That pin on the floor wasn't just a piece of metal. It was a symbol of a promise kept, of a sacrifice made. The spilled coffee wasn't just a mess. It was an insult to a man's dignity. Her internal battle was short and decisive. Her duty didn't end at the cemetery gates. It was a part of who she was. With a soft, almost inaudible click, Chloe closed her laptop. The decision was made. She rose from her chair, her movements fluid and purposeful. The bikers hadn't even noticed her yet, but they were about to. Chloe moved through the tables with a quiet grace that belied the coiled tension in her body. She stopped a few feet from the booth, placing herself directly between Spike and Arthur. Her 5 feet 7 inches frame was dwarfed by the biker leader's bulk, and in her casual hoodie, she looked like a college student who had made a terrible mistake. Spike turned, a look of amused disbelief on his face. "Well, what do we have here?" he sneered, looking her up and down. "Lost, little lady? This doesn't concern you. Go back to your pumpkin spice latte." His crew chuckled, their confidence absolute. "You gonna pick up that pin?" Chloe said. Her voice wasn't loud, but cut through the silence with chilling clarity. "And then you're going to apologize to this gentleman." Spike's amusement turned to irritation. "Or what, sweetheart? You gonna call the cops?" He took a step towards her, puffing out his chest in a classic display of intimidation. "You've got 5 seconds to walk away before you regret getting involved." He punctuated his threat with a shove, reaching out to push her aside. It was the last mistake he would make that day. The moment his hand made contact with her shoulder, Chloe's training took over. It was a seamless flow of motion, honed by thousands of hours of practice. She didn't resist his push. She used it. She stepped with his momentum, grabbing his wrist and twisting it in a sharp, precise C-lock. Spike roared in pain, not anger, as a jolt of agony shot up his arm. Before he could even process what had happened, Chloe pivoted, using his own body as a lever, and sent him crashing face first into the adjacent table. Crockery shattered with a deafening crash. The other 4 bikers, stunned for a half second, lunged at her. One threw a wild haymaker. Chloe ducked under it effortlessly, the fist sailing over her head. As she came up, she drove the heel of her palm into the man's chin, snapping his head back. He crumpled to the floor, his eyes rolling back. Another grabbed her from behind. Without looking, Chloe stomped her heel down hard on his instep, crushing the small bones in his foot. He howled and released her, hopping on one leg. She spun, delivering a swift elbow strike to his solar plexus. The air rushed out of his lungs, and he collapsed, gasping like a fish out of water. The last 2 charged together. It was a foolish move. She met their charge by kicking a chair into the path of one, sending him tumbling. The final biker reached for her, and she moved inside his grasp, striking him twice in the thigh at a major nerve cluster. His leg buckled instantly, and he went down with a grunt. The entire confrontation was over in less than 60 seconds. The coffee shop was a wreck of broken plates and overturned furniture. 5 large, groaning men were scattered across the floor. And in the middle of it all stood Chloe Mitchell, breathing evenly, her messy bun still intact. She hadn't even broken a sweat. She was the calm at the center of the storm she had just unleashed. The silence in the room was now one of pure, unadulterated shock. Chloe's gaze, cold and steady, fell upon Spike, who was struggling to push himself up from the wreckage of the table. "I believe I told you to pick up the pin," she repeated, her voice as calm as it had been before the fight. Humiliation and fear warred on Spike's face. He looked at his downed crew, then back at the woman who had dismantled them with terrifying efficiency. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a primal understanding that he had crossed a line he never knew existed. Gritting his teeth against the pain in his arm, he limped over to the counter, bent down, and snatched the Marine Corps pin off the floor. His hands trembled as he placed it on Arthur's table. "Sorry," he mumbled, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Look at him when you say it," Chloe commanded, her tone leaving no room for argument. Spike swallowed hard, his face turning a deep shade of red. He forced himself to meet Arthur's piercing gaze. I'm sorry," he said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "I shouldn't have. I was wrong." He then fumbled in his pocket, pulled out a thick wad of cash, and threw it on the table. "For the damages. For the coffee." Arthur Vance looked from the pin to the humbled biker. He slowly picked up the pin, his one hand gently polishing it on his shirt before fastening it back onto his jacket. "Respect isn't something you can bully out of people, son," Arthur said quietly, his voice resonating with wisdom earned through hardship. "It's something you earn. You have a long way to go." Spike just nodded, defeated. He signaled to his crew, and they helped each other limp out of the coffee shop, a pack of defeated wolves. The roar of their engines, as they sped away, sounded less like thunder and more like a retreat. For a moment, the stunned silence held. Then the old man who had been sitting with his wife started to clap, a slow, deliberate applause. Soon, the entire cafe joined in, a wave of relief and admiration washing through the room. Lena rushed over, a dish towel pressed to her mouth, tears of gratitude in her eyes. I've never seen anything like that," she stammered. "Are you all right?" Arthur patted her hand reassuringly before turning to Chloe, who had slid into the booth opposite him. "We're just fine, Lena." He looked at Chloe, his eyes filled with a deep, knowing respect. "That wasn't a bar fight, young lady. That was discipline. That was training. Where did you learn to handle yourself like that?" Chloe took a breath, a faint, rare smile touching her lips. "I served for a time. Over at Arlington," she said softly. "I was a tomb guard." Arthur's eyes widened, a profound understanding dawning on his face. A tomb guard. One of the sentinels who guard the very soul of the nation. He nodded slowly. "You did them proud today," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You did us all proud." In that moment, a bond was forged between the old soldier and the young guardian, a silent promise to always stand for what is right, a legacy of honor passed from one generation to the next. This story isn't just about a fight in a coffee shop. It's a powerful reminder that the greatest strength is often unseen, hidden beneath a quiet exterior. It teaches us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act in the face of it. True honor isn't a medal on a chest, but a principle lived every single day, whether in the spotlight of a national monument or the quiet corner of a local cafe. Have you ever completely misjudged someone based on their appearance? What would you have done if you were in that coffee shop, watching that confrontation unfold? In a world that often feels loud and aggressive, do you think the quiet values of honor, discipline, and respect are becoming a lost art? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and please be respectful of one another's opinions. If this story reminded you of the power of quiet courage, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the hidden heroes who walk among us. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that you should never, ever judge a book by its cover. We read every comment, and your stories inspire us. More stories about unlikely protectors and everyday heroes are waiting on your screen right now. Watch those next, and we'll see you tomorrow with another story that will challenge what you think you know about strength and sacrifice.